Hey YouTube, Drollboy here. So, I think it's about time that I finally do the second part of my videos discussing what I think the One Piece is. And so the last part of this video was about a week ago, and I suggest that you check out that video before you check out this one, but you can watch this video without watching the other one and it'll still make sense. But before you go check out that video, there's something that I want to bring up again, which is this relates to a quote Oda has said in the past. And a lot of people are under the impression that in this quote, Oda has specifically stated that the One Piece is a physical object. It has to be a physical object. And so any idea about what the One Piece is, if it's not a physical object, is automatically wrong. And this is both a misquote and misunderstanding of what Oda said in this interview. Oda has not been quoted as saying the One Piece is a physical object. He said the Straw Hats would get a reward when they find the One Piece, which suggests that they will obtain something when they find the One Piece. And while this eliminates ideas such as the journey itself being the One Piece, that they won't actually find something when they find the One Piece, only find out that their journey itself was Roger's treasure all along, this has been debunked. But the idea that it has to be a physical object is wrong because you can obtain something other than a physical object. There's other things that can be obtained. And in my theory, I discuss that it's a possibility that they obtain knowledge. I still find people talking about this as though it's fact, and so I wanted to put it at the beginning of this video just to head off any of those comments, but we'll see what happens. But definitely, I do think that you should be open to the possibility that it's not a physical object, especially given the context that Oda hasn't said that it has to be a physical object. That is a misquote. So with this being said, if you haven't checked out part 1 of my series on what I think the One Piece is, I suggest that you go check that out now. Because now I will be talking about this video. The link for it will be in the description. And so I think the first place to start that a lot of people don't really talk about, but I think has to be the case, which is that One Piece, the name of the story and the name of the treasure is important. Any theory about talking about what the One Piece is needs to address this point, which is, why is it called the One Piece? Oda has even gone on record saying that the One Piece, the name itself, has meaning. And then at the time of this quote, that only he knew what this meaning was. And so going into my last video, which was a more general video, this one is going to be a lot more specific. I basically speculate that the One Piece is a dream, and specifically the dream of the Ancient Kingdom, sort of a name for the future that they saw for the world. The future that they envisioned, they dubbed the One Piece. I also speculated that in order to understand and learn of this dream, one would need to follow the poneglyphs. They would need to find the poneglyphs, and then once they find all the poneglyphs, then they would come to understand what the dreams of the Ancient Kingdom was, and therefore what the One Piece is. And so in this context, what would be the meaning of the name One Piece? And so this one is really simple and talked about all the time and makes a lot of sense, which is that the poneglyphs currently are in pieces, spread out across the world, and that in order to put them all together and create this dream, you would then be taking multiple pieces, combining them together into one piece. But I don't think this is going to be the only deeper meaning behind the name of One Piece. Given this theory, I think there's other ways of looking at it as well, which I will touch on later in this video, and I want you to keep this in mind that the name of the One Piece is important as you continue forward in this theory. So let's change gears for a moment. I posted a theory yesterday titled the Void Century Revealed. And in that theory, I talk about the conflict between the Ancient Kingdom and the 20 Kings, which later became known as the World Government, that happened during the Blank Century or the Void Century. And that this conflict happened for a reason, that they were each fighting for something that they believed in, and this is really what caused the fight in the first place. And so I speculated that one of the causes, if not the only cause of this conflict between these two massive groups roughly 900 years ago, related to discrimination, racism, and then slavery. Basically, the Ancient Kingdom was friends with many of the non-human groups that were discriminated against in the past by the 20 Kings, and then going into the future, the descendants of the 20 Kings, the Celestial Dragons, still discriminate and oppress these non-human groups. The Ancient Kingdom was friends with these people, didn't like the way that they were being treated, and then rose up against that. I don't think it's any coincidence that we find poneglyphs located in territories of non-humans, specifically territories of non-humans that have for the most most part, isolated themselves from the world due to potentially the oppression that they face at the hands of humans. These poneglyphs being the road poneglyph located in the territory of Zo under the protection of the Minks, and then the letter of apology poneglyph between Joy Boy and Poseidon in Fishman Island. Also, this is again important, Poseidon is a mermaid princess and the ancient weapon of the Ancient Kingdom, so it's very clear that the Fishmen and the Ancient Kingdom were friends. And given this friendship and the way that we know that the 20 Kings treated people who were not humans, I can't see any situation in which the Ancient Kingdom weren't pissed off by this. I can definitely see this being the source of the conflict which started the Void Century. And so I think the Ancient Kingdom wanted a world in which all these various people which existed in the world of One Piece could really live together in peace. That was sort of what they wanted. And so this is actually, I believe, echoed by the dreams of the Fishmen, which is the Fishmen dream to live on the surface with the humans, but they can't currently do that because if they go up to the surface, then they often are a target for slavery and discrimination, and it's just basically a dangerous place for them to go, which is why they live under the surface and completely isolated, for the most part, from the rest of the world. There is direct evidence that the Fishmen of the past, the ancestors of all the fishmen living today, they also wanted this dream of living with the humans. That was the role of the Noah, to carry the entire fishman population to the surface on that promised day. But in order for the fishmen to move up, the landscape of the relationship between these two races needs to change above the sea. And I think this is where Joy Boy failed, and the reason behind the letter of apology to Poseidon as revealed on the poneglyph in Fishman Island. And so do you think it's any coincidence that the Noah was built during the Void Century, and that Joy Boy made a specific promise to the Fishman race? And I think that there's a lot of information to go on to suggest that this promise was to help them move up into the surface and create an environment that was suitable for everyone to live in peace. And so the Ancient Kingdom created these poneglyphs, and Joy Boy is the only person revealed so far that was able to make a specific poneglyph, not containing any history, but his own specific letter of apology, which I think highly emphasizes the idea that Joy Boy was a prominent person within the Ancient Kingdom. And so I think this highly foreshadows one of the major dreams of the Ancient Kingdom, the reason why they were fighting against the world government in the first place, which was the unification of all the races in the world. And to emphasize this, I want to share a couple lines from One Piece near the end of the Fishman Island arc. One of the most beautifully scripted lines within the entire story. You can tell Oda spent effort trying to perfect these. And so it revolves around the situation in which Jinbei ends up giving his blood to save Luffy after Luffy lost a ton of blood, trying to save Fishman Island and destroy the Noah, and fought against Hody. And so I'm going to read this to you, and I think that there's really nothing else that needs to be said besides this. The deep red of blood. It flows from those who are hurt and in those who do the hurting. Though far too narrow to be called a path, it was the tiny tubes through which that blood now flowed, that tore through prejudice and fear, through the battles of those who sought to wash away blood with more blood. So smoothly and easily it flowed, that clearer than any wild dream or ideal, all could see it for what it was, a path to the sun. A path to the sun. This was the dream of not only the fishmen, but of the Ancient Kingdom as well. All races living in harmony under one sun on the surface. I think this dream is the One Piece. So I think Roger's treasure, the treasure in which he encouraged all the people of the world to go find, was a vision of the future of the world in which all the various tribes and races in the One Piece world live together in peace. And so with this being said, what does One Piece actually mean? What is the deeper meaning behind these random two words, which currently has no direct correlation with the story at all? I think it could refer to the fact that the world right now is in pieces. You have all the different races spread out and isolated, and that the Ancient Kingdom and Roger dreamed of a future of the world in which, rather than being separated into pieces, the world could come together in one piece. Or perhaps another way of looking at it is one P-E-A-C-E, one piece. Or alternatively, Peace One, W-O-N. I certainly don't think that there's any reason that this can't be the One Piece. As stated previously, One Piece does not have to be a physical object. All they need to do is obtain something upon finding the One Piece. And in this case, I think it's knowledge of a greater dream to help make the world into a better place. And so there's other facets to this as well, which is that one of the most popular theories, probably the most popular theory of One Piece ever made, at the end hypothesized that the One Piece was the unification of all the blues through the destruction of the Red Line. And while I think that this is an actual thing that may occur in the future of One Piece, I do believe that the Red Line needs to be destroyed, and there's plenty of clues out there foreshadowing this idea. I don't think this is what the One Piece is. I think it's only just part of the One Piece. What would really unifying all the blues actually achieve? While it might bring some people together and allow for greater commerce and travel between all the various groups that exist within the world, I think by itself it can't be the One Piece. It's not profound enough, it's not big enough. I much prefer this idea that it's the actual unification of all these species and races and people, and not just the destruction of the Red Line itself. I don't think destroying the Red Line and unifying the blues will make the world a better place, but I think it would help in making the world a better place, given the context of the greater dream. And so I see a lot of people who think that knowledge isn't something that Luffy would really want to obtain, and that the One Piece has to be catered to Luffy, given he's the main character. The One Piece has to have value to Luffy once he finds it. And so a lot of people shrug this off if it ends up being knowledge, because Luffy doesn't care about knowledge. But I think in this case, it being a dream to unify all the various people of the world, this would directly apply to Luffy above any of the other members of the Straw Hats. If you haven't caught on to this yet, Luffy's dream isn't necessarily to become the Pirate King. Although it is true that he wants to become the Pirate King, the reason behind this is his actual dream, which is that Luffy desires to be the freest man on the sea. And then not only this, but to add on to this even further, he also cares about the freedom of others. Several times throughout the course of the story of One Piece, he's commented on as saying to people that he's friends with that they should just do what they want, that free will matters a lot to Luffy. But I don't know that he currently understands that this is really what he wants, and that even if he does become the Pirate King, it doesn't save all the people and friends that he's made along the journey from his own actions, trying to defend his own freedom and the freedom of others. Becoming the Pirate King is not going to fulfill Luffy's dreams. And so with this being said, if he comes across all the Rio Poneglyph and the history of the Ancient Kingdom, and specifically their dream of uniting all the races of the world, and then also contains information about how to achieve this dream, this is going to have a huge impact on Luffy. There's little doubt in my mind that just like Gol D. Roger, if Luffy came across an understanding of this future of the world that the Ancient Kingdom envisioned, that he would be moved by it, and that it would also become Luffy's treasure. But yeah guys, this is what I think the One Piece is. I think there's substantial evidence to support it, but obviously this is a theory, and at this point in time the story could go in many different directions. But at the very least, I hope that you enjoyed this video and think what I said is a possibility. But if you don't think that it is, please explain why, and give me your evidence and your reasoning. I'd like to hear what you guys think about this. Just leave your comment in the comment section. I read all the comments, even if I don't reply to all of them now. As my channel has grown, it's becoming a lot harder for me to balance work, posting videos, and also replying to all the comments, and for that I'm sorry, but I try the best that I can. But yeah, if you enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate it if you gave it a like. I'd also appreciate it if you subscribed, if you like the kind of One Piece content that I make. And as always guys, have a wonderful day.